The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL. However, we do encourage you to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because Martin County Roofing and independent insurance agent Rudy Howard presents the African American Scene, less than a week away from the midterm elections. Here is your host, live in person, Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so glad to be with you here again on Wednesday night. And I'm so glad that many of you are reaching out to Martin County Roofing, high quality organization. So I'm glad to hear that. Well, this time next week, we will be done with the midterms. So when I talk to you next Wednesday, I would venture to say we won't know the results of all of the elections, but we should have a pretty good idea of where we're going. There's some saying that there's going to be a red wave. I don't know about that. Listen, we're open mic. I really want to hear your views on what's going to happen next week. That phone number is 340-1590. That's 340-1590. I'm not sure if there's going to be a red wave or not. I advocate all the time that there's these people in the middle that are relatively quiet. They don't really want to be seen. They don't want to attract attention to themselves. But they tend to not like injustice. And I'm not sure where they are right now. Some of them may have just withdrawn from any kind of participation because they're so frustrated with the way our politics have been working. And our politics are not working right now. There is a level of hostility that I cannot recall seeing in my lifetime, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, what we're going to see next week is an expression of what the country wants to do going forward. And we have Tom on line one. Yes, Tom. Yes, Tom.
I heard a little bit of what you said. You were talking about the elections?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a major Republican change in Congress.
You think so? Does that make you happy? Tom? Are you there?
Tom, you got to keep the phone in your ear.
And does that make you happy, Tom?
My speakerphone is tied into my radio somehow.
Yeah, you have to turn the radio off while you're on, else you'll get all confused.
Well, the problem is, wait a minute, let me switch to my phone.
That should work. Okay.
Okay, Tom.
Come on, Tom, we got a show here.
Okay, well.
We'll give up on Tom. And
yeah, all right.
We'll figure it out and call back.
He can call. Yeah, he can call back. So as we're moving forward, one of my questions for tonight is, there's this idea that there's going to be a red wave. My question to you is, how do you see the Republican Party helping you going forward if there is a red wave? How do you personally think there will be a benefit? I think there is a lot of misgivings about anybody who states that they're a Democrat or a progressive. And that's me. Now, let me tell you what I stand for. The first point I want to make is I love this country as much as any conservative. I would put my life on the line to protect this country. I believe in humanity. That means protection of my fellow Americans. I think all Americans should have health insurance. Shouldn't be free, but it should be affordable, no matter whether you are rich or poor. People deserve a living wage. I think that's another very important element of what we need to do in this country. Cutting taxes does not allow us to get the quality of teachers our kids deserve. In Japan, teachers are held in very high esteem and paid like lawyers and doctors. I don't know how we could ever see that happening here. But if we continue to cut taxes, how can we attract the kind of people that we want to teach our kids? I believe we should be prepared to protect the homeland here and abroad. But our defense budget is bloated. The money we are investing in space is important, but some of that money needs to be reinvested in the American people, preschool and after-school programs. And we have Tom on line one again.
Hey, Tom, go ahead and try it now.
Yeah, hopefully it works this time.
Okay. Good luck. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I've been having problems with my speakerphone in the car.
Okay.
And,
Well,
yes,
what is it you want to tell me?
I was saying I think we're going to have a major Republican change in Congress.
So is that good for you?
Well, we'll see.
You don't have an opinion whether that's good or bad?
Well, I favor it, but that doesn't mean it'll be good.
Well, okay, I'm confused. If you,
Okay, I am.
if
Most of the Republicans hold my point of view.
most Republicans hold your point of view,
Yes,
which is,
that abortion is wrong, and we need to be a little more conservative with our spending.
okay, what else?
Well, I'm trying to think of something offhand. Right now, I'm driving and I'm sort of concentrating on traffic.
Okay. Well, I understand your point of view. That's a traditional point of view about spending, but Trump kind of threw that in the trash can with that big tax cut he gave all his rich buddies.
I said most Republicans, I didn't say all Republicans.
Yeah. So I understand. So your two issues are spending and abortion.
Well, that's two of them. I think military, I'm trying to think of the word, maintaining equipment and stuff for emergency.
So you think?
I think we're just depleting our military supplies, and also I'm concerned about the oil reserves.
We're depleting our military supplies?
Well, I think that they're not replacing as much as they're using.
Well, what are we using right now? We're not at war anywhere.
We're giving away a lot of the military supplies to Ukraine and other countries.
So you think that's coming directly out of our reserves?
Sure.
You don't think the defense contractors are fat and happy right now about supply?
I don't know the details of what's being replaced.
And you don't even know if, in fact, those items are coming from our particular reserves. Because each time...
What I hear in the news implies that.
I'm sorry?
What I hear in the news implies that.
Well, why? If you notice, each time President Biden has provided large chunks of money in order to provide equipment for Ukraine. So, well, he's buying that stuff and sending it over there. Well, I would say to you this, and you can look this up. Our defense budget is bigger than any defense budget of any country in the world.
Okay, but it's used for the right purpose.
Well, our budget's bigger. And I would contend, Tom, at this
bigger, it may not be used properly.
Well, technologically, there is not a country in the world that has the kind of sophisticated equipment that we have for our protection. If we went to war with somebody with the things that we have available to us, we could wipe out some folks in a fast hurry. Now, I'm speaking about this from an educated point of view. I have a friend that retired from building defense systems for the government. And he could never tell me exactly what he did because he had a top secret security clearance. But the one thing he told me is this, and I have always kept this in the back of my mind. He said, when you see a piece of equipment on TV or demonstrated by the military, that piece of equipment is already obsolete. The other stuff you just don't see. So I say that to you, and the amount of money that is spent in armaments at this point, I think, is misplaced because the war going forward, I think, is going to be on the internet. And I think it's going to be on the internet. And I'm going to tell you why I think it's going to be on the internet. Most countries know they are no match for us in a military confrontation. So where can they exercise some damage without having to face the U.S. military? On the internet.
Well, my concern is a dirty bomb.
Well, a dirty bomb, yeah. What do you think would happen if Russia sent a nuclear bomb at us?
Well, a dirty bomb is not really a nuclear bomb.
Well, yeah. What do you think would happen if they did that to us?
Well, it'd be all-out war.
I wouldn't want to be living in Russia if they did that, because our response would be so overwhelming. I mean, it would be overwhelming. So I don't know why.
The movie Failsafe.
Well, I don't know why there's this constant concern about continuing to build more and more and more planes and bombs, and why are we continuing to do that? Continuing, and like I said, the reality is most countries know they're not a match for us in a military confrontation. That's why many of them now. That's why many of them now
keep building bombs.
Well, that's why many of them resort to internet attacks. But anyway, so maybe you'll have your wish come next Wednesday, and maybe there will be a overwhelming red surge, and maybe there won't be. I don't know, but I am hoping that there is not a red surge, to be honest with you, because the Republican Party of today is nothing like the Republican Party I grew up knowing about and having some admiration for. I have no admiration for the Republican Party of today. But anyway, thank you so much for calling, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay. Let me continue with telling you what I believe. And I'll repeat the last thing I said, just in case you didn't hear it. And if you want to call in, the number is 340-1590. I believe we should be prepared to protect the homeland here and abroad. But our defense budget is bloated. The money we are investing in space is important, but some of that money needs to be reinvested in the American people, preschool and after-school programs. Whenever you talk about stuff like that, preschool and after-school programs, conservatives make the argument that they don't want to create a dependent culture. Well, what we know, and this has already been calculated, Biden's investment in that with the COVID action reduced childhood poverty by 40%. Is that bad? Why wouldn't we want to do that? I support the Second Amendment, but there is no need for AR-15s. They should be banned, and we did it before. There's no reason why we can't do it again. We don't need AR-15s. I support the Second Amendment. I have a gun permit myself. I am not for open borders. We need to invest money in revamping our immigration system. People who have lived here for more than 10 years should be allowed to transition. We have a labor shortage. Why are we trying to kick all these people out when we need people to work? And some of them will do work most Americans don't want to do. And from firsthand experience, I just had my bathroom redone, and I had two Hispanic guys in here, and they finished it in 2 days. And it is absolutely beautiful. They work like mad dogs all day, day one, and finished on day two. I don't have a problem with them. Why would you have a problem with them? Culture wars, like what DeSantis foments, are codes for racial prejudice and racism. And I really don't think there's any place for that in our society. We should be getting beyond that, but we're not. We need to eliminate the Electoral College. I think that's the source of a lot of the consternation that we experience when it comes to elections. I think it is the source of much of our mistrust of the system. A candidate for president should not lose the popular vote and still become president. The presidential election is the only election that we have starting in grade school, high school, college, the House and the Senate, all majority wins. Only in the presidential election can a person become president and lose the popular vote. In the case of Trump's first run against Hillary, he lost the popular vote by 3 million votes, and still he became president because of the Electoral College. Hillary didn't pout. She was devastated. She was hurt, but she did what she was supposed to do. She gracefully bowed out, even though she had popular vote by more than 3 million votes. And finally, we need both parties. We do. We need a Republican Party. I think America is at its very best. And you've probably heard me, if you've been listening to me for a long time, you've probably heard me say this before. I think America is at its best when you can synthesize the ideas from the right and the left and come up with a solution. And the reason is because all the people on the left don't have all the answers, and all the people on the right don't have all the answers. And some of the best decisions and legislations and policies that we've created is when the two sides can come together and come up with a solution to solve a specific problem. Now, I've just told you what I stand for as a Democrat. And I am be bold enough to say, I think what I've just told you I stand for is pretty much in line with most Democrats. We're not the radical kinds of folks that you paint us out to be. For example, President Obama was very, very moderate compared to what it is that progressives would like to see. And we have Winnie on line one. Yes, Winnie, how are you this evening? How you doing, Winnie?
You hear Rudy okay?
Yeah, you on the computer, you're not, how you doing, Rudy?
Okay, Winnie.
Yeah, you're not in the station?
I'm not what? Oh, no, I'm not in the station, no.
Yeah, he said you're on the computer. He said Stacey Abrams gonna make it this time, that she's gonna win in Georgia.
I don't know. I think the last I checked, Kemp was up, but she was close. I think that they're having with these
might do something.
Well, I think with these polls, because of cell phones, I don't know that they get the representative samples that they really need in order to have a proper polling projection. And I think there may be some surprises on Tuesday. Either way, it might be some surprises, but I think there's going to be some surprises. That's Rudy Howard's prediction.
Yeah, good to have position. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I heard that guy, Michael Ed. They say he won that case, you know. He won $30 million.
Who's that?
Rudy.
Who won what case?
Rudy's still there.
He say, but anyway, then he won $36 million. Have been in the crime. He said you were wrong for they charged him, but he went to prison or something. You know, they accused him of killing Michael X back in the day, but he did one thing like that. You haven't heard nothing about it?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure exactly who you're talking about.
Rudy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I couldn't make out who you were talking about.
Oh, Rudy, I think she disappeared there.
Okay. All right. So, like I said, I think we need both parties. So here's what I'd like for some of you to do now. You do me a big favor. So tell me why you hate Democrats. I would be very interested to hear that. I have in the past had discussions with people who told me that Democrats were completely wrong for this country. And when I had the discussion and asked them what did they think I stood for, and we had the discussion, they said, well, I didn't think about you like that. I said, well, that's what I stand for. I don't know. You have this stuff like wanting to eat babies and holding child pornography rings, and I don't know anybody like that. May some of them exist? Yes, some of them may exist, but I don't I don't know of Democrats in my lifetime that have participated in anything like that. But if that's your impression of what a Democrat is, I certainly could understand why you would hate a Democrat, because I wouldn't like a person who was invested in child pornography and treating children bad. I've got 4 gorgeous grandkids, and I can tell you for sure, if anybody did anything to them and I was in proximity, this old man would be in trouble, because I would go after them with reckless abandon. So don't put me in that category, because that ain't who I am. I'd like to know why you hate Nancy Pelosi. Is anybody brave enough to call up and tell me why they hate Nancy Pelosi? Because here's the thing I want you to know. When the history books are written, it's going to pain you to know this. Nancy Pelosi will go down as one of the most effective speakers of the House in the history. Boehner ran from the job because he wasn't able to corral his people to point them in a direction to get some things done. Ryan ran from the job because he couldn't corral his people to move in a direction that he wanted them to go. And the Freedom Caucus caused him a lot of agita. Nancy was able to get Democrats to vote for the Affordable Care Act when they knew, I want you to hear this very clearly, there were several Democrats that supported the Affordable Care Act, and they knew when they supported that, they were probably going to lose their seat, and they did lose their seat. But Nancy was able to convince them, for the good of the people, that was the right vote to take. So Boehner and Ryan did not possess those kinds of skills to be able to point their party in the direction that he wanted them to go. When Nancy got that cadre of freshmen with very progressive ideas about what the party should do, Nancy was able to corral them and bring them in line with what she felt needed to be done for the American people and for her party. So say what you will about her. In my opinion, Nancy's a badass woman. She has been very, very effective. Whether you like her or not, she's effective. I would say the same thing about Newt. Newt was very effective in getting his program going until he went off the rails and turned off a lot of his fellow Republicans. But Newt was very effective. So tell me why. That phone number again is 340-1590. will you abide by the outcome of the election on Tuesday? Can you abide by that? Whether it's in your favor or not in your favor? I can. And matter of fact, I not only can, I will. I may be a little upset. I may bang my head against the wall trying to understand why people voted in the way that they did. But this is America. And if that's what the people voted for, then that is what they wanted. And we have to respect that. I have to respect that, and I will respect it. I may complain, I may groan, I might even whine a little bit, but I will respect the outcome. You can take that to the bank. So let me talk about some of the things that Democrats have done. And you don't like Democrats, and I understand that. I'm not sure why you dislike them. We passed an infrastructure bill, which we haven't done in eons. Our infrastructure is falling apart. And we have passed an infrastructure bill that will rebuild roads and bridges, which are in badly needed repair. So I wonder, what is your objection to that? What is your objection to that? And it did have some bipartisan support, but for the most part, the Republicans did not support that. One of the things that President Biden has done with Vice President Harris, he has created a task force on reproduction health care access. So the two of them are working to try to find out the things that they can best do to help with reproduction rights for women in light of the decision that took away Roe v. Wade. That is one of the things about that troubles me is the people that were coming onto the court were all asked about Roe v. Wade. And all of them pretty much stated that it was precedent, that it should not be overturned. But it did get overturned. So my question is, did they lie? Did they lie to us in those meetings when they said, no, it shouldn't be overturned? And going forward, what do you think about that? That a Supreme Court judge on an issue as sensitive as Roe v. Wade chooses to state a position that is untrue. So I want you to think about, here's, for me, it's a contradictory position that conservatives have, because the conservatives have, for the most part, starting with Reagan, have suggested that government is the problem. It should be minimized in our lives and taken out of the way whenever possible. Yet, when it comes to Roe v. Wade, you think the government should hold dominion over how or what a woman does with her body. I don't know. That don't you think there's a little conflict there? You don't want the government involved in anything having to do with our day-to-day activities, but it's okay for the government to control how or what a woman does with her body. I don't know. That is, and as a Christian, I don't support abortion, but I support a woman's right to choose. The consequences of having a child, the financial impact is pretty significant. And if you've had a child, then you know what I'm talking about. Everybody's pretty quiet. I will tell you this, boy, this guy here will be pretty happy when this is over. I'm tired of getting phone calls begging me for money. I delete the call, I delete the text, and within, it seems like hours, I get 2 more texts asking me to give money. So I'll be glad next week when this is over, so I don't get those texts anymore. I get texts and emails, and Cliff, do you get any of that?
Well, let's see. I'd say probably 90% of all of my email is unsolicited junk.
Yeah, yeah. I know, and it's hard to keep your email in a manageable condition when you getting all that junk thrown in on top of what is maybe some important things you need to deal with. I don't know. So I still am looking for an answer of how do you see Tom gave me his 2 issues, abortion and spending. I'm not sure how those things help you. I think the things that the Democrats have done have helped you personally and your family. So I'd like to know what it is that you expect the Republican Party will do to help you, other than continue with culture wars. Because the culture war thing, as I just said a few minutes ago, is something I find deeply offensive and leads to a lot of the consternation that exists between Democrats and Republicans. So I would love to hear what you have to say. But evidently, you're just listening and not having much else to say. Let me tell you another thing that Biden has done. And you're benefiting from these things, even though you think Democrats are one step away from Satan. Biden has lowered prescription drug costs, and there was no support from any of the Republicans for lowering prescription drug costs. they have lowered the maximum amount of out of pocket. And if you're in Medicare, you know, at one time the donut hole was like $4,000. They have reduced that down to like $2,000 max out of pocket for prescription drugs. They've also cut the cost of prescription drugs. And they've put into place a program where the cost of insulin, the maximum cost would be $35. Now, that's pretty important because if somebody's a diabetic, they're life-saving drugs. And in Florida, where we did not accept the Medicaid expansion, you could have somebody that has diabetes and they can't get the medical treatments that they need to stay healthy. Again, I speak from experience. I lost my nephew who had diabetes, and he did not keep his medical plan in place, and he could not take the drugs that he needed to keep him alive. So he died at 50-something years old and left behind 3 kids. And that makes me very sad. And so I think it's important, as I said to you before about healthcare, I think every American should have healthcare. I don't advocate that it be free, but I think it should be affordable no matter how rich or how poor you are. I think that should be just an integral part of being an American, that you're able to get some healthcare. And we got Steve on line 1.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. I was listening to the commentary about Nancy Pelosi. Am I still on?
Yeah, you have to just talk directly into the phone, though, and I hope it's not a speakerphone.
Oh, no, it's my cell phone. No, it's my cell phone. So let me do it this way. When I think about Nancy Pelosi, I think about Lyndon Baines Johnson. I think, based on my knowledge of the history of the politics in this country, especially in the 20th and the 21st century that we are in now, she probably reflects the highest level that LBJ was able to attain as a leader in the as Speaker of the House. I'm also willing to accept the possibility that when she did what she did with Obamacare, that she perhaps, even though she is a woman who comes from a home of wealth, was intending to do things for people who were in need. And in that regard, I acquiesce.
Okay. That's very fair, because that's what she did. She did something for people that she felt was in need. But I think the thing that impressed me the most about that is, as I said earlier, she got some Democrats to walk the plank, because when that was introduced, it was very unpopular. And the Democrats, some of the Democrats that voted for that lost their job.
Would LBJ not have done the same at this point in time?
Yes, he would have. He was burdened with some programs that President Kennedy had started So yes, but I think he would have done the same thing. Yeah, no question about it.
Man, it's been a long time since you and I agree on something.
Yeah. Yeah, so we agree on that. LBJ would
All
have
right.
done the
Thanks,
same thing. Yes.
thanks for taking my call.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Well, folks, we're coming to the end of the hour. And this time next week, when I talk to you, we will have a pretty good idea about what direction the country wants to go in. And I hope that I'll feel good about that. And whether I feel good about it or not, the election will speak for itself. And I can promise you that I will adhere and support the outcome. Now, I may work very hard to make sure there's a different outcome the next time, but I will support the outcome. So what I want to say to all of you is be careful. Please vote. I don't care what party you're in. We want you to vote. Get out there and go to those polls and cast your vote. Be safe. Take care. And I will see you next Wednesday right here for the African American Scene.
The African American Scene, presented by independent insurance agent Rudy Howard and Martin County Roofing. Heard every Wednesday night in the 6 p.m. hour with archives on YouTube. Go to WPSLTV.com to check those out. And thank you for joining us for the African American Scene.